G'day, I'm Ash, welcome back to Tank Mechanic Simulator. Hopefully you've been enjoying the rest of the series. Last episode, we restored two M18 Hellcats and sold them for a hefty, nice profit. Today, we're going to be restoring the AVRE. So this one's going to be a fairly interesting one. I am not looking forward to restoring, obviously, the running gear and obviously all the tracks and things, so let's get stuck straight into it. Probably just disassemble everything that I possibly can. I can't see any holes on the outside of the vehicle per se. Okay, let's get out the old rusty old thing. We'll just de-rust everything that we possibly can. Come back to the vehicle after we've just hit it with a bit of a degreaser and a bit of a rust removal. Like so. Every single component. Oh yeah, I forgot that they've got like tiny little wheels on the Churchill as well. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. We'll just pull off everything as we can. That one. Select turret module. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so now I guess we disassemble everything. But first and foremost, let's go and de-rust the engine. What kind of engine is in a Churchill? I'm not actually sure. The designer of the vehicle was Vauxhall Motors, I think, and so I presume it's got a Vauxhall motor, or I'm not entirely sure. Churchills are quite a weird sort of vehicle. While it's really only the armoured spigot on the front of this thing that is different from the rest of a regular Churchill, every other Churchill's armed with like a 2-pounder, 6-pounder, or a 75, or a 95mm. So again, I'm not entirely sure what to think here. We'll come back to that later when we do the engine disassembly, but now that that's perfectly alright. Okay, disassembly time. Let's first take off the spigot mortar. Mantle it. Again, you can just see this interior space where the crew would have been. Take out all the mechanisms and we'll have a good look at the interior of the turret. So I'm actually really curious of how this thing works. Now, it'd be nice to have a Cromwell in this game. It'd be also nice to have a Matilda as well. Apparently, they are in the works for this game, so I'd be much interested to restore one of those. Okay, it was probably the quickest disassembly that I've ever done in this game for a vehicle. Interesting. Alright, let's go ahead and disassemble everything with the engine. Take out the camshaft. What you've got is something that can do an operational range of about 56 miles. So about 90 kilometers before running out of fuel. And produces about 350 brake horsepower, which, you know, isn't exactly nothing to laugh at, but when you've got a machine that weighs like an absolute, like, metric shit ton, you might start to see issues there. Okay, camshaft's out. Everything is out. Look at that. Wow, it's fascinating seeing the block as it stands. Basically 261 kilowatts at 2,200 RPM, which is not bad. We're in a petrol engine, not a diesel engine. Water-cooled, and the transmission was a 4-speed constant mesh gearbox. At least according to Tank Encyclopedia, at least. Alright, so I guess we now give it a good spray down. Done the same to the block. Yes, I have. Let's go do the same to the turret. Let's go and see if there is a Churchill out in the yard, because I want to see if we can steal some parts from it. Right, so the yard hasn't particularly given us anything interesting at all, aside from this Panzer... What is it? What is it, Panzer 3? Yeah. So that's a shame. Okay, starting with the turret assembly. First off, let's install the turret basket. feel like that is the most important thing, and then you just install all the seats. All the other running equipment as well. Okay, now that that's done, let's go put the toolbox back on the back. This box lid. Shove the radio in there. Mount the shelf to the back. Mount both the antennas. Put the loader's hatch in with each periscope and their corresponding armoured housings. Commander's hatch with that, and now we can focus on putting in the interior. So, gun mantlet, put the spigot and mortar in, barrel, the actual barrel of this particular machine, which had to be self-loaded on the outside, and you've essentially got the most of the vehicle done. Except, we haven't got it done. We've got so many traverse options to go. Put the control panels in. There we go. Commander seat. Control panel A. There should be some other things in here. A fairly simplistic vehicle, actually. If that's it. Not entirely sure what else is supposed to go where. Alright, turret interior condition is 100%, the exterior condition is also 100%. Well, that was probably the quickest turret I've had to do. And now we've got to go and fiddle with this engine. So, let's go ahead and put everything back. Start with all the bigger components. Like exhaust manifolds coming off all of the cylinders. I don't want to cover everything off just yet, because we need to get access to most of this stuff. Okay, put the exhaust pipe on, carburetors in, all the other pipes. We can go ahead and shove all the piston valves. Piston rod. The housing on the end there. And that is the engine done. That is an incredibly amount of just finicky parts for a horizontally opposed petrol engine, which is a very odd orientation, considering engines like this out of the IS2. Hold on, I'll show you. Considering engines out of the IS2 are mainly in a V configuration, most of the German engines have been V configuration. Even the American ones, aside from the radials, were really that interesting. So, I mean, this AVRE engines are very, very interesting. Now, we've got to go and basically hook up the remainder of everything to the hull, and then we're done. Which is quite sad, because this has been quicker than I've actually expected. So, first and foremost, I'll shove all the things on the exterior that we possibly can fit. Starting with everything that is possible for the vehicle to have. Which doesn't include doing the tracks, so we'll just do the front headlights. And the driver's sights and everything along the top. Periscopes and the periscope covers. Front headlight. And basically, we should be done here soon enough. Okay, assistance hatch, let's close that up. Driver's hatch B, driver's hatch A. Shove in a couple of air filters. I guess we had probably better start work on the interior of the vehicle, which is something that I'm not looking forward to. Why have they got the exhaust covers over the top of the exhaust? Is that to presumably take the exhaust running from the engine, the weird, strange engine design that they have, and then potentially even just cover it up so it's good for the crew? Is there a reason why they put exhaust cover over the top of the exhaust there? Probably because the crew would be using and maintaining the vehicle and it would probably be dangerous, I don't know. Can't think of another way why you would do that. They didn't really have impact drivers back in the day. Everyone had to done this by hand. Big old spanner, in you go. She'll be right, mate. And then, you know, lift up everything at the back there when you want to fill her up and stuff. The two giant sprocket wheels. I think we're done for the internals. Does that movement of this rod actually... no, it's quite linear movement. So, tensioning the track system, quite a fascinating thing. They would have had a big pry bar or something like that. Would have gone into this idle stop frame here, and they would have tightened up this sort of mechanism. See how there's a sort of a big bolt on the end of this? And so in order to get decent track tension, you'd just move this, and this would go left or right on that one axis. I thought that's kind of clever. That really is kind of clever. It's a simple kind of thing as well. Because then you just apply the same amount of tension as you have on the other side of the sprocket wheel to make sure that it's even and balanced, and then you're actually pulling the track along the track frame. That's interesting. They're very clever, the engineers back in the day, and I think they didn't do it. They did most of this without computer drawings. Do all this shit. It's what I hate about this game the most. Honestly, it is probably some of the interior-exterior moment cameras. You're trying getting everything together, and then it's just like, nah, mate, you're not going to do a thing. Okay, gear H. Gear selectors. Put those on. Steering mechanism installed. Over the other side carefully. Try and get both gears on. Gear selectors, there it is. J. And then we can put the steering thing on, and then we can put the box cover on. There we go. And that is a complete transmission. Which won't go in for some reason. Come on. There we are. Alright, the air compressor, or... what part was this? With a giant fan for cooling the engine. Followed by the clutch. And I presume there are other things, like gear selector rods, okay. Like so. Is there any other internal engine component that might be needed? So, I mean, it looks like it's connected up to the radiators and things already, and that's already done, so I don't have to do any of that. I'm just trying to put off as long as possible doing the bogies and the wheels, because that is possibly the most annoying part of this whole entire build. Alright, put in the connecting hose and all of the wires. Machine gun sight. I really think that's all we've got left. Interior, turret interior is 100%, the hull interior is only 89%. I don't know where we're going to put the battery. Again, there's a reason why I do the outside of the vehicle before commencing the insides, because of this exact reason. I don't like having to go through any of this. Hull interior is now 100%, now we just need to do the tracks and the fuel system. Okay, so, radiator cap. So there's one there. And there's one there. Okay. That should now be 100%. Fuel system, engine, 100%. So we can put the engine now back in here. Right. Engine, put it back in the machine. Fantastic. The turret and the hull interior are done as well. So now we're just working on the tracks. So back you go. Man, it's an impressive looking vehicle once you put it all together. There's my light. There's my light. Beautiful. Just kind of a good machine. Queen kind of looking vehicle. Alright. For your sanity, we're only going to install one side of these. Otherwise I'm going to time-lapse the rest of this vehicle. So let's get on with it. Each side needs to be screwed into the frame. Then we're going to do the suspension for each bogie frame, which again is a nightmare. Imagine trying to maintain one of these. Well, it is a big box, it's just like, what? Put in the coil springs. Oh, the double coil springs. Oh boy. And a suspension arm. With suspension pins? Oh, bloody Nora. Okay, so double road wheels, right. I feel like there's more road wheels than that on this thing, surely. Alright, put in the 2 springs and the suspension arm, and then we go put the pin in, and then the road wheel. And it's double-sided. Must have been a very comfy ride in this machine, actually. But again, I'm not entirely sure, I'm not a tanker. Nor have I seen one of these driving in person. Put that in. Suspension arm and the 2 road wheels. Second coil. Suspension arm pin and the 2 road wheels. This just gets repetitive. And we're only halfway across the tank. So because I do want to see what this thing sounds like. Fill up 1. Hate having to go through this menu. Oil. Every single time you have to go through this silly menu. So you have to go up here, tank status, test drive options, fluid, then coolant. And you've got a choice of filling up either container. What's going on either side. We'll fill up the other one. Full on fuel, full on oil, full on everything else. Good to get us started, so toggle engine. Well, there you go. That is the Churchill AVRE. Hope you had a fun time watching this video. My name is Ash, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheerio.